If you want to get better at Fortnite fast, you need to know that some ways of playing are actually making you worse, while others can help you improve faster than almost anyone else. So today I'm breaking down the main ways people practice so you know exactly what's holding you back and what will actually make you improve. To rank these, I'm using 4 factors: time efficiency, how much progress you get for the time you put in, speed to earnings, how quickly this method can get you to your first earnings, entry level, who this method is actually suitable for based on your skill level, and effectiveness, how much this method actually helps improve your overall skill. And at the end of this video, I'll show you a full scoreboard where every practice method is ranked against this criteria so you know exactly what to practice. Let's start with ranked, because this is where most players are getting the least out of their time. And here's the honest truth: ranked is one of the worst things you can grind if you're serious about improving fast. The reason is really simple. Let's say you play a 20-minute game and you get 5 kills. That's 1 fight every 4 minutes, and on top of that, 90% of the players you're fighting in ranks are nowhere near tournament level. You're basically getting a tiny amount of repetitions against players who can't punish your mistakes, which means your brain has no reason to change anything. You can make bad peaks, bad rotates, greedy plays, and still win because the lobby isn't good enough to punish you for it. That's the trap, and for beginners, ranked is a good way to practice, but only when you're first starting out. The only advantage to ranked is that your ping and FPS is similar to tournaments. But when you're not a beginner, that doesn't matter, because everyone you go up against won't be good enough to punish you for your mistakes. So if you're not a beginner, I'd mainly avoid playing ranked battle royale unless it's the first few days of the season and you need to get used to the new guns and items. So if your goal is to genuinely go pro, ranks alone will never get you there. It scores a 4 out of 10 on time efficiency, by far the lowest on this list, which tells you everything you need to know. Ranked reload is far better than regular ranked, but not by much. The main advantage is that you're fighting more often, since the respawn format means fights happen quicker and more frequently. It's also just a smaller map, but the core problem is the same. The lobbies aren't competitive enough to actually push your skill level, and the format doesn't replicate what you need for most tournaments. There's also a mentality trap with reloads specifically. Players get comfortable because winning feels easy, and that false sense of progress makes them think they're improving when in reality they're just going up against players who have no idea how to punish the mistakes they're making. Reload gets a 7 out of 10 on time efficiency, which is better than regular ranked, but the effectiveness is still only 6.7 out of 10. Something that's ranked a lot higher on effectiveness are mechanics practice maps. Mechanics maps like Raiders V5 are genuinely good, but only if you use them correctly. The mistake almost every player makes is going into a mechanics map and freebuilding on autopilot. They're doing the same moves they've done for a year and a half, their brain is completely switched off, and they think they're warming up, but you're not improving when you're doing that. The way to actually use mechanics maps is to target your weaknesses specifically. If your long range aim is bad, spend 10 minutes in the surge tech section. If your edit timing is off, do the edit timing drills. If your piece control is inconsistent, run through the piece control tunnels. That's where the actual improvement comes from. Deliberately working on the things you can't do yet, not the things you're already comfortable with. When used this way, mechanics maps are really solid. Time efficiency is 8 out of 10 and effectiveness is 8 out of 10. But because so many players use them wrong, a huge portion of time spent on these maps ends up being wasted, and also when it comes to speed to earnings, it's ranked as slow because just playing mechanics practice maps will never get you earnings, and most of the time, a lot of competitive players should only be spending like 30 minutes max in these maps each day, because the spare time could be used better in methods later in this video, like Scrims for example. Now everything I've covered so far, ranks, reload, mechanics maps, these are all things most players are already doing, and most players aren't improving as fast as they want. So here's what I need you to pay attention to for the rest of this video. The things that actually work. The methods that the top players in the world use to go from average to making earnings are actually very different from what you'd expect. expect. One of them in particular most players never even touch at all, and it's arguably the single most important thing you can do to improve in 2026. Now, before I go over the best practice methods in the whole of Fortnite, if you're trying to improve as fast as possible, make earnings or go pro, then you need to practice with intention, and you need to know how pros play tournament style games, and snapping.gg helps you do this. It helps track your weaknesses, goals and tournaments, then builds you personalized training routines based on all of this and what all the pros use. You also get 24/7 coaching from Snapping's AI coach, which not only knows all of your weaknesses and tournaments, but it's also trained on a huge competitive dataset, analysis of over 1,000 pro scrims and hundreds of pro strategies. It's the fastest way to improve, so if you're serious about making earnings or going pro, click the link in the description to get snapping. Now let's get back to the video. First, let's talk about aim trainers, because this is something a lot of competitive players skip, and that's a massive mistake. Now, whilst mechanics obviously matter, good aim is something no one can get earnings without. And there's a ton of people with insane mechanics but bad aim, and they can never even get close to making earnings. Training this skill on something like Kovacs or Aim Labs is one of the highest time efficiency uses when it comes to improving your aim. Even 15 to 20 minutes a day of focused aim training will compound into a noticeable advantage over months. And unlike a lot of other things, this is a skill you can develop entirely away from the game. Aim trainers score 9 out of 10 on time efficiency and 8 out of 10 on effectiveness. Extremely solid. It's just the speed to earnings is slow because it doesn't directly help you at getting closer towards earning in tournaments, although if you have good aim it will definitely help. Now, 1v2 clutch realistics are heavily underrated and most players have no idea how useful they actually are. Here's the situation a lot of people are in. You're the best player in your friend group, your 1v1s against your friends are comfortable, you win most of them, your mistakes don't get punished, and deep down you probably know you're not being challenged. And because you're not being challenged, you're not actually improving. Now, with 2v1s you have more pressure and you also need to try more and make less mistakes. Now, if you go up against good players, then 2v1s become even better. It practically makes it nearly impossible for you to get away with mistakes, as there's two players constantly looking to punish your mistakes. They're also really good at improving your clutches, so when you're in an endgame and your teammate's down, you can clutch a top 5 or top 3 and be the reason you get the best placement you've ever got, and that is a great feeling. The other good thing about clutch realistics is that they help you learn how to play defensive, get counter damage, and apply constant pressure during fights. On the scoreboard, it gets 8 out of 10 on time efficiency and 8 out of 10 effectiveness. And if you get two players that are actually better than you, this is one of the fastest ways to improve your fighting, which you can also carry over into actual tournaments. Now, let's talk about Zonewars, and by Zonewars I mean the 1v1 to 4v4 Zonewars map. I'll talk about endgame creative maps later, but for now, for 1v1 to 4v4 Zonewars, I think it helps you learn how to fight from height or how to fight from low ground, but the main issue is that these can get pretty unrealistic and also go into the cringe Zonewars playstyle, which most of the time doesn't work in tournaments. So I prefer realistics or 1v1s, but as long as you get good players to go against, Zonewars will still be a good option to improve your fighting. For this type of Zonewars, time efficiency is 8 out of 10, but effectiveness is only 7 out of 10, and speed to earnings is below average. Now, when it comes to Zonewars maps that replicate endgames, like Cup Endgame for example, they're good if you're really short on time, as they're more realistic to tournaments, but the endgame practice methods later in this video are just way better to practice tournament style games. Realistics are some of the best fighting practice you can get, but the gap between doing them correctly and doing them wrong is massive. The reason realistics are so good is the setup. You spawn facing your opponent, you both have a limited build count, and the goal is simple: win the fight. There are no rotations, no loot paths, no early game variants, just pure fighting practice, repeated over and over. The 1.5 1.5k mat cap is also a hidden advantage of realistics. When you genuinely run out of mats in fights, you're forced to learn how to win without builds, reading your opponent, making smarter edits, controlling space without needing to build over everything. That skill transfers directly into tournament games where you're not always going to have 2000 mats. But here's the thing, realistics are only as good as the person you're playing against. If you're running realistics against the same friend every day and you're winning 70% of fights comfortably, you're not improving. You're just reinforcing habits you already have. You need to be playing against someone who's genuinely challenging you. Ideally, someone who's slightly better than you, or at the very least around your skill level. 1v1 realistics score 9 out of 10 on time efficiency and 8.5 out of 10 on effectiveness. They're one of the best methods to improve your fighting on this list, but only if done right. It's just if you want to go pro, you can't just do fighting practice. Speaking of which, Vod Reviewing is one of the best ways to improve your mistakes and learn how to properly play tournament style games. And there's two good ways to Vod review. The second is what's going to help you stop making the mistakes that are costing you bad tournament placements. And first, if you want to learn how to improve the way you play tournament style games, you need to watch pros games and look at how they play. Look at the patterns, look at how they play the game and replicate it in your own games. Then the second way to Vod review is to look back at your games, slow down your fights and look at what specifically caused you to die. And watch back your tournament games to figure out what's costing you bad tournaments, whether it's a bad rotate, not looting quick enough in the off spawn, leading you to rotating late in the mid game, which might have forced you into a fight that you lost, and this is then the reason you lost that game. The key is to figure out the root cause that caused you to lose that game. Vod reviewing done right, 9 out of 10 time efficiency, 9 out of 10 effectiveness, and one of the fastest methods to figure out what you're doing wrong and to get your first earnings. Now let's go over scrims, starting off with Zonewars scrims. These are a great stepping stone that most players underuse. Zonewars scrims means that scrim server has a rule where you can't fight before a certain zone. This makes it slightly more unrealistic than no Zonewars scrims, and you also have to play Zonewars scrims mid games to learn the map, learn the places people rotate around your drop spot, and learn the best loot paths and rotations and stuff like that. Because you can't fight during the off spawn or mid game, using this time wisely like this is something you need to do. But the value of no Zonewars scrims is that anyone can play them, so you don't need to be a top 1000 player to practice in scrims. So this makes it the best entry point into competitive practice if you're still working your way up. If you have good mechanics, decent aim and decent fighting, but don't quite meet the requirements for no Zonewars scrims, then a lot of your time should be spent on these Zonewars scrims. The limitation is that there are zone rules and that the players in these lobbies vary a lot in skill and aren't as good as players in no Zonewars scrims, so they're 8 out of 10 time efficiency and 7 out of 10 effectiveness. And by the way, by effectiveness, I really just mean how effective it is at improving what that method is designed to improve. So for 1v1s, it's how effective it is at improving your fighting. For aim trainers, it's how effective it is at improving your aim. For scrims, it's how effective it is at improving your tournament style games, and specifically endgames if you're playing Zonewars scrims. Now let's talk about no Zonewars scrims. This is the best practice you can get in Fortnite. If you're serious about going pro, genuinely serious, not just saying it, this is the method that matters more than anything else on this list. Like Vital scrims in NAC or Noble 24/7 in EU, where only the top tier of players on the PR leaderboard can even get access, are the single most effective way to improve as a competitive player. 10 out of 10 on effectiveness, nothing else comes close. And the reason is simple, every single mistake you make gets punished. In these high level scrims, if you don't plan your rotations, you get beamed and you spend the rest of the game scrambling. If you go for a bad play in the end game, you're eliminated. No second chances. Over time, that environment does something to your game sense that nothing else can replicate. It's also just the best way to improve how you play tournament style games. You're essentially playing a real tournament game every single game against the players who you are actually competing at the highest level. And I'll be honest, even getting access to these lobbies is a goal worth working towards. If you can't get in yet, that's your target. Do whatever it takes, because once you're in these lobbies consistently, improvement happens at a rate that almost nothing else can match. Zone rule scrims, 10 out of 10 effectiveness, and if you're already close to the top 1,000 in your region, they're the fastest path to earnings on this entire list. Now on screen is every method ranked properly against time efficiency, speed to earnings, entry level, and effectiveness. If this video helps, make sure to like and subscribe and comment what type of videos you want me to make. Now if you're looking to go pro, then I tell you exactly how in this video on screen, so I'll see you there.